Alright, full disclosure. Despite being a young kid in the early 2000s and religiously watching the major CGI films of the time, obviously watching the likes of Pixar and DreamWorks on constant rotation, I never saw the original Ice Age. Now, I did see the atrocious sequels and several other films from Blue Sky Studios, but in memory, I barely remember their first theatrical outing. I guess something about it just didn't seem to have the value like the original Toy Story or the first Shrek film. I guess it might have had to do with how intimidating the atmosphere was. Again, judging from memory, because Toy Story, despite having some creepy moments and set pieces and character designs, definitely had a more inviting atmosphere. And Shrek is kind of a similar thing as well, even though that focused a lot on comical set pieces. Ice Age, however, utilized all kinds of specific film techniques and shots and specific art direction to immerse the viewer into the stylized prehistoric world, and not the inviting type of prehistoric world like you see in the Land Before Time sequels or Barney the Dinosaur. No, this was hardcore, devastating, survival of the fittest kind of thing, like that segment from Fantasia. Now, unlike future installments, this is a pretty muted environment as well. Only white snow and blue ice being bright, clashing greatly with the muted characters. I remember very vividly being thrown off by that DVD menu. Oh, God. So simply put, my only recollections were there was a human baby and the franchise got really bad after this. Now, eventually I did try to watch the film legitimately when I was in high school, after watching Chris Wedge's directorial debut short film, Bunny. Even when I was in high school and probably on the edgelord phase, I still was very enamored by the short, and honestly, to this day, I still think about it. But because it was on the second disc of the Ice Age DVD that I mentioned earlier, I thought, well, it's only fair to watch the actual movie rather than just this one short film that's a glorified bonus feature, so here we go. And, you know, I really enjoyed it. I was very impressed by the way it was shot and the art direction, but when I got to that specific scene where Manny and Sid retrieved the baby, and it was at that moment when all the disgusting, obnoxious memories of the Ice Age sequels just kept flooding into my head. This silent exchange between two creatures in this damaging environment. And then just the calm atmospheric music and ambience. You really get to take in everything. None of that carried over into the sequels. There was no attempt. So I just couldn't do it. I tried. After that scene, I just kept trying to press on, but just trying to repress all those memories. I know I sound very dramatic, but trust me, this is how it went. So, once again, I resented watching the first film. I didn't get to finish it, and I hadn't really done it since then. I just moved on with my life. Until very recently, and as of this recording, the previous winter. I guess something went into my head and thought, well, I got free time. I might as well just watch it. I'm not going to go back. And I was impressed. I really enjoyed it. And I'll even admit it probably has become one of my favorite go-to CGI films. Now, okay, it is not an amazing film. I am willing to admit that despite how much I was really impressed by it. For one thing, the plot itself is just a Three Godfathers style narrative, three social outcasts brought together by this infant child that needs to be brought back to his family. And if you don't know what Three Godfathers is, well, it's pretty much the serious version of Three Men and a Baby. And if you don't know what that is, then yeah, this is a very original plot line. Don't worry. You're not lost. But it's really what they do with this unification that really makes this whole plot really blossom. For one thing, these characters were already in this spot of trying to survive in this incoming Ice Age. And having this burden of trying to bring back this specific creature back to his home just adds a lot more unneeded pressure. And they all have their own traumatic past. Manfred the Mammoth, or Manny as he'd become known as in this franchise, had his whole family killed by a bunch of humans. Sid the Sloth was abandoned by his family, and Diego, while definitely part of a pack of other saber-toothed tigers like him, he's more seen as a tool than anything else. And only the infant Roshan at least seems to have some kind of a pleasant background, even though his mom just died. I mean, to be fair, he's an infant. He really doesn't know what's going on, so he's almost like the innocent child watching this film, which is kind of weird. But it's this odd unification of our leads that really adds greater pressure for this survival storyline and has some really good dry banter and slight slapsticky moments. But this eventually leads to more honest discussions, opening up about their past or talking casually, and really just sticking up for each other because they know that this is a dangerous terrain and there's no use really fighting each other, because either way, there's a great chance that all of them could die. And we see this perfectly in scenes like the famous ice sliding and the lava scene, and even dumb comedic detours like with the dodo birds. And especially in that climax, everything comes full circle with the action scenes, as well as just the overall development of these characters throughout the film. And this is all enhanced by the cinematography of the film. In particular, the use of intense wide shots allow the audience to truly take in the atmosphere of the world of the movie. Even when following Scrat in specific moments, you are still drawn to how vast the environment is. His encounter with the moving glacier and him running past the baby sleeping further exemplify the scope through his perspective. Oh yeah, I didn't really bring up Scrat, didn't I? Yeah, this dude is seriously a comic relief character done right. Mostly because he really helps with the world building, and especially in the opening scene, really helps showcase just how dangerous this titular ice age is and how much of a threat it's going to be for literally all of the main characters. And he's not annoying, he's really funny, and he doesn't hog up the spotlight all too much, and he's really there to just break the dramatic tension. This is perfectly portrayed in the plot structure of the film. The filmmakers structured the plot by having a clear balance between the comedic scenes and the more dramatic moments. For instance, after a funny moment with Scrat is shown, the scene where Diego attacks the baby's tribe follows. Vice versa also happens when the baby takes his first steps, and there's a moment with Scrat following after. The humor is also present in order to keep the light tone. Likewise, the dramatic tension is kept so that the film is not a complete gag fest. If one approach was more dominant than the other, it would be a slog to sit through. But back to the cinematography real quick. All this is strengthened with how small the characters are by comparison, despite being rather large creatures. Many of the wide shots also display a strong visual contrast between our leads. The strongest showcase of this is during the walking montage with the song Send Me On My Way by Rusted Root. Seeing the large mammoth followed by the human-sized sloth and menacing tiger, along with a tiny infant, perfectly complements how insignificant they seem compared to the towering mountains and harsh snow. Even in the more tame environments such as the ice rink, you still get a sense for how large the location is. But it's not these wide shots that really do it for me. It's the close-ups. In particular, that first encounter with the baby and his mom, the depth of field, really displays the calm atmosphere and the silent communication between Manfred and Roshan's mother. It's utilized in such a way to really convey the emotional depth of these characters. The hopeful optimism in the mom's eyes during her final moments of living, and hopeful that he'll reunite with his dad eventually. But then she just drifts off into the sea, never to be seen again, leaving only confusion from Sid and Manny. Speaking of the father, he also has some really good close-up shots to really showcase his emotions during the period of time that his son is missing. That fierce determination at first hand when he sees the tigers, sense of hope but dread during that middle point, even being comforted and just assured that the baby's probably not going to come back. And that false defeat at the end. Finally placing that charm bracelet that represents him and his family behind in memory of his lost infant. Moving on forever, but replaced with sheer ecstasy when he finally reunites with Roshan once again. Forever happy, and will forever remain together in this trying time of the Ice Age. Although there is just as much depth with the main creatures, particularly with Manfred and Diego, both showcasing a great range of emotions throughout. Manfred is mostly gruff and defensive in most of his scenes, but can show long-winded sensitivity in the more dramatic moments. Diego is also a similar situation, except he has a more menacing presence in his introductions, but over time shows more of a reluctant, heroic side to him, showcasing his more timid nature. But then there's Sid the Sloth, who just kind of drags the film down. Get it? Because, he's a sloth. He's slow. He's kind of annoying. He's not super funny. He really only bounces off the characters in order for his jokes to work. And yeah, he got much worse after this. And trust me, we're going to get into that real soon. But overall, I truly believe this is an amazing film. Even with its major flaws, especially with some of the jokes not working and the animation definitely not looking that good compared to the competition. But hey, it was still really good, well worth effort, and it was very successful and people really enjoyed it. And even then, what other CGI films came out in 2002? So yeah, it was definitely worth the time back then. It's still worth the time now. We hope you enjoyed today's video on Ice Age. Let us know in the comments down below what you thought of the video and what you think about the movie Ice Age. And if you agree with any of my points and appreciate the techniques, whatever, you can just say something stupid. Now I'd like to take the time to thank the Patreon producers, Leaf Razor, Valkyria, Whoop-Doo, Michaela Bellamy, Empty the Dude, Blackjack, Nightingale Wednesday Nightmare, and Unkale. If you would also like your name read at the end of every video of ours, then please consider donating to the Patreon. There's a link down below. We've mentioned this in every video, so please take that into consideration. And now it's time for the comment of the day on the video that I resented like hell, Bible Man. Because yeah, knowing my background and personal tastes, I totally care about Bible Man. Yeah, okay, so this one is from CJB Studios. It's honestly a good thing I never grew up watching Bible Man, let alone hear of it at the time. I'm really surprised that you're actually talking about this again. I remember you talking about it on your old channel, Taz Productions, about 5 years ago. It's so great that you're doing it again. I was very happy that the topic was being revisited by my friend Trevor, because, yeah, I remember him talking about Bible Man a little bit. I didn't really care, but, it was cool that this topic came back in some way, in a better form. So, yeah. Also, if you watched the video all the way to this very end of the video, I will give you a cookie. No, I'm not going to give you a cookie. Instead, I don't know, I'll give you like a juice box or something. That seems like a bit of a more fitting reward.